dedicated,
painter,
nurturing,
energetic,
disciplined,
interesting,
prolific,
hardworking,
caring,
educator,
loving,
emotional,
passionate,
witty,
true,
confident,
force of nature,
very enterprising,
committed.
multi-talented.
and liked.
I always kind of describe Vince as art-centric. He is, to me, always an artist.
He has a vision, and he's driven by that, and he's relentless.
He could have a full load of classes and teach so much to so many people, and at the same time put out more artwork than someone who only does that.
There was something different about him. He had an interest in his students that delved beyond the classroom. Everyone knew of him, even my friends. Oh, that's DiMatteo. That's the professor that you love so much.
1968, a painting teacher walked into the room,
Almost broke my hand when he shook my hand.
booming voice, effervescent, and said, "It's going to be a great, tough year."
To be honest, I was actually scared of him. One of the only people I was ever scared of, but once you break down that shell, it's like he's one of the most humble people and wonderful people to talk to.
Let's talk about art. Art. I can't do the Massachusetts long A.
Been living here for 50 freaking years, and make art.
But is it art?
If you're gonna be an artist, you gotta make art.
Or art.
First question, what is art? And I remember thinking, oh my God.
He hates when his students say like too much, and he hates when they say things are amazing when they're not. When I went to Spain with him, different museums and cathedrals we were in, he would point at things and say, now that is amazing.
He would tell me the most valuable thing you can give to someone is your time, because you can never get it back.
As an artist, I've definitely expanded upon what he's taught us. So no matter what it is that I'm making or inventing or experimenting with, in the back of my head I remember there's somebody that has a higher aesthetic and also attention to detail and things like that. You could experiment as much as you want as long as it's put together well, it's archival, things like this. That's very important in art, you know, to know that this isn't just something that's slapped together, but there's true intent in what you were making.
Vince and I connected when I came back to campus, and we talked about the model of a business, and we talked about being professional artists. And those conversations really helped me form the way I approach clients.
He was really all about, you know, if you took a design like a leaf and you wanted to make a paisley designer, you could take that leaf and carry it through in many different reincarnations and it would work. He was good about a piece flowing, you know, from one edge of the canvas to the other. And I translated that to jewelry.
Being around him, you know, I saw the volume and I see the way he rolls, and if I do that, maybe I'll succeed. I mean, I'm up to over 500 life-size statues. That's 110% reflection of him.
He'd always encourage me to be every year in the faculty show, right next to him. When you look and you see all these calligraphic lines, and then you look at Vince's work and you can say, okay, I can see something going on there.
He's like, you should have a show here. I thought he was kidding. And I'm like, what? He's like, no, you should have a show here. But that meant I needed like 100 pieces, and I had a year to prepare for it. And I was like a little mini Vincent, because every night after work, I was up at my studio and painting away or drawing.
My form of art is taking natural forms and making it surrealistic with the human body in order to show symbolism, daily or universal struggles. The way he approached composition and language, that's what I truly want to incorporate. So that way there's a deeper meaning into my pieces.
I see my work, my film work, and other things I do in the idea that he forced me to be dedicated to it and do it.
I think Vince would be proud of me because I became a teacher, I became a good artist. It all started right here.
Vince's intensity and his following was super clear in the art department. There was no other classroom that summons this reverence of, you must show up prepared, you must do your work.
He needs you to come to the studio, he needs you to work, he needs you to be on task.
We had to go get our own lumber. He demanded that we make large format paintings. We had to miter our own corners. We had to stretch the canvas, gesso, and then paint.
They were prepared, and if they weren't, they did experience consequences, which is the closest thing they're going to find in the real world.
I did show up late. I was that guy. And he laid into me in front of the whole class. I remember having to go to his office and say, listen, this is what's happening. And he understood. You know, he actually listened, and I think my grade reflected it.
He really wanted to turn out artists. He didn't just want to turn out students who went through the BFA program. He wanted us each to find our little niche where we could go and be happy.
When he gave me permission to be an artist for the first time in my life, it was like stamped permission. This is what you are. This is what I expect. You're going to do it. It changed my life.
Vince, he's an educator, and he educated us in a time of our lives when we were finding ourselves. And Vince was one of those people that offered a little bit of a safety net.
You could experiment aesthetically, you could experiment with different things artistically, but what I always remember is he was very specific about the quality of the output of the product.
He took art seriously, and when he came in, he wanted us all to kind of feel it. You know, art is not just your class starts at 9, it ends at 10:30.
You can try to understand who he is in a semester or two, but that's not going to happen. It's like, it's really discovering who he is, how he pushes you over a several-year relationship as a professor.
He was always really helpful and encouraging to anybody in whatever direction you wanted to take your art.
He didn't show himself. He only wanted to showcase us, our art, and our abilities.
There was no messing around. It was, this is it, you're going to learn it, you're going to do it, and you did it.
I lived in a garage, no heat, nothing, and I had the worst car you ever saw. Everything was a struggle for me, but he didn't care. He was like, no, you're doing this, you're doing this.
I laugh at all the students that want to take art because it's an easy 3 credits, because Vince's classes were the hardest classes I ever had on campus, including quantitative analysis.
His work is who he is. I mean, he's intense, and there's energy there, and there's process there, and those things together make these really interesting prints and paintings.
Vince was always making art for himself, and he's certainly gone through phases, but he really followed his heart.
And he was always going in different directions, from making physical sculptures to painting, trying different techniques, and I was always like, I don't know where he gets the energy.
He has different bodies of work. There's so much variety, there's so much color, there's so much detail. It's really wonderful.
Back then there was some real like phallic type looking things.
Paintings that were more graphic, more erotic, put it that way.
He made a piece on cocktail napkins where he would just draw all these wonderful designs, and he just kept going and going and going and going to the point where I remember he framed one of them, and it must have had like 40 napkins in it.
To work in a series, to think in terms of one painting evolving the next.
It looked like he was almost developing a language with his calligraphic marks.
You can't read them because you don't know what they're saying, but they look like they're really telling you something, and they're also different.
It was like this abstract expressionism. You know, it's 2 things. He was doing a lot of drawings with pen and ink. He was exploring that, but he was doing these beautiful, delicate paintings where he would explore variations of color with these little marks.
He moved into found objects, and he would create these constructions on canvas with things that he would find. Right now, what he's doing are making a lot of social statements.
He was a remarkable artist in the fact that he was always producing.
You have to apply the craft. You just can't say you're an artist. You have to actually be an artist.
You can't paint once a week. You have to paint every day. You have to be painting and flinging things on the floor and starting again, and more things go on the floor.
He was always in his studio, and he'd show me, look what I'm up to.
He's just so dedicated to what he's doing, and he just wants everyone else to be as dedicated.
He's an art factory. He just keeps creating. You get a good sense of what it really takes to become a professional artist or a successful artist just by watching him.
Oh my God, I mean, really, that's the contribution that he's made to this school, to art.
Vince is like a part of Monmouth. I don't know how they're not interchangeable.
He's worth celebrating. He's made an impact on so many people, this university.
I think he put his all into it. I think he put his heart and soul into it.
I give the big kudos to somebody who has practiced their craft and been able to teach at the same time.
To be able to pull both those things off so successfully and equally intensely is really amazing.
And I know he's part of the reason that Monmouth is what it is.
To see him supported, to see him, have his space here and a gallery here for him, we could use this as a example to other institutions to support the arts, to understand that what an artist does is important to society.
He's just an amazing human being. He is worth that word.
I'm still bummed that when I was a student, there was a faculty show. One of his paintings was $200. I didn't buy it. Of course, I didn't have $200 that day, but I should have borrowed it and bought it. It's a really cool painting.
It's funny, I knew him when he was a relatively young man, Sorry, Vince. Now you're not a young man, but neither am I. God, see, I know all this work.
He got kind of a kick out of me because when we would do critiques and things, he would say to the class, "Can you believe what this mom is doing?"
He has a very, not dark, but like a sense of humor that is very particular. You think he's not being funny because he's not smiling, but then give him 30 seconds to a minute later, then it is.
You want to impress him. You want to reach that high bar that he sets for himself. You really want to aspire to that. So I tried to outdo him with my snapping, popping, smoking alien alphabet. I think I scared the hell out of Vince. He ran over and unplugged it from the wall.
He's a special guy, special friend, and I'm really thrilled to be a part of this, wonderful celebration for him.
Knowing that somebody like Vincent could do it for 50 plus years and be successful at it keeps you going, You start getting a little bit older, a little bit creakier, a little bit more tired, don't want to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning making art. And you remember there's somebody like him still doing it. That's amazing.
Look, they named a studio after him. Who gets that? Who gets a building? I'd like a building. I'd like somebody to say that they named their child after me. But who gets that?
It's nice that there's people in your life that mean so much to you, even if you don't stay in touch and you don't pick up the phone all the time. I should have. So Vince, I'm sorry. I'll call more often.
And people don't believe me. They're like, he's been teaching there for 50 years? And I'm like, yes. He's been here, not just teaching for 50 years, he's been teaching at Monmouth for 50 years. And he's going to be compiling all his work and showing it. And it won't even be all of his work. It'll just be a fraction of it.